morning all. So we'll continue with the next topic of module 5. So it is on Bluetooth and cellular technology. So we'll deal with Bluetooth first. So what is your Bluetooth? So Bluetooth is one of the wireless LAN technology, that is local area network, through which you can connect n number of devices which can do different functionalities. Like for example, you can connect say 2 laptops or 2 notebooks, telephones, computers, camera, printers, so on. So any devices can communicate with each other if in case it comes to that particular range of your wireless technology or your wireless LAN. If it comes to the specified range, then those two or that devices can communicate with each other using a Bluetooth technology. So Bluetooth is an ad hoc network. So what do you mean by ad hoc network? So the network is not fixed, right? Ad hoc means it is a dynamic network. So based upon the number of nodes, the network is made, right? So your ad hoc network is one where you don't have a fixed topology. So depending upon how new nodes come into that particular range, that forms a network using any of the topology, and this network which is formed spontaneously, it is spontaneously formed. So based upon the available devices, a network can be formed dynamically if in case it comes to a particular range that you have specified in your wireless LAN protocol. So this is about Bluetooth. So depending upon the number of devices available in that particular range, they can connect with each other and communicate based upon ad hoc fashion, or the nodes which forms topology can be bought dynamically. So if we move to the architecture of Bluetooth, the Bluetooth architecture can be broadly divided into two types of network. So it can be either a small network called Piconet, or it can be a huge network which is formed by n number of piconets, which is called as scatternet. So basically it defines two types of networks, Piconet and scatternet. Piconet is a small topology, that is you can have only 8 systems connected to that particular topology. So that is your Piconet, whereas scatternet is a huge network which can consist of n number of piconets. So example for Piconet is you have one primary device and you can connect it to secondary devices. So the maximum number of hosts or node a Piconet can support is 8. So out of 8 hosts, one will be master and other becomes slaves to that particular host. So this follows master and slave architecture. So this is called as a Piconet, or it can also be called as a small net or a small network, where you can have up to 8 stations or 8 hosts, where one will be the master node, rest will be slave nodes or secondary nodes. So what it has to do is, in order to communicate with the master node, the clock that is there in your secondary nodes will be synchronized with the master node. All secondary nodes or slave nodes should synchronize the clock time with the master node as well as the hopping sequence. So hopping sequence will decide which particular secondary system or host will first communicate with the master node. Assume that, for example, this particular host is communicating with master. then what should be the state of, say, system 2, 3, 4? In that case, this system should go to an ideal state. So in your Bluetooth terms, it is called as parked state. So only the host or slave which is communicating with the master will be in active state, whereas all other systems which is connected to that particular piconet will be in parked state. So your parked state can also be termed as ideal state. So based upon your parked state or ideal state, your network can be formed. So if there are additional systems added, for example, here we have 5 nodes. So it has a capacity to add 3 more nodes. So an addition of new nodes to this topology, even that new nodes should synchronize with the master node, and it has to be in parked state. So only when a particular host wants to communicate with the host or your master host, in that case, it will change its states from parked state to the active state. Rest of the time, all the other states can be in the parked state. So this is about piconet. Next is scatternet. So n number of piconets can be combined in order to form a scatternet. In scatternet, a primary piconet can have n number of slave devices. One of the slave device or host device can become a master node to the other piconet. So as shown in the figure, this is your primary piconet that is formed. So if I want to form a scatternet for this piconet, one of the secondary device can become a primary or master to another piconet. Like this, you can have n number of piconets attached to the topology, and this topology which is formed is called as scatternet. And one more thing that you have to notice, Bluetooth devices, each device which is capable of communicating using the Bluetooth technology will have short radio transmitter. So your Bluetooth works on radio wave technology, and each of the node which can communicate using your Bluetooth will have short range of radio transmitters. What do you mean by that? It can catch the radio signals of short range frequencies. So based upon this, your scatternet can be formed. So I repeat, so in Bluetooth, you have 2 types of networks, piconet and scatternet. The maximum number of devices that can be connected to your piconet is 8, out of which the prominent one will become masters and rest are slaves. So n number of piconets can be connected to form a scatternet. Here, one of the hosts can be master to the second piconet that is being connected in the example. So likewise, you can connect n number of piconets. So for the next piconet, out of this 2, one can become a master host. So this is about 2 types of networks, that is piconet and scatternet. So we'll see the RFC layers of your Bluetooth or Bluetooth layers. So the first basic layer is your radio layer, followed by baseband layer. This is L2 CAP, means logical link control adaptation protocol layer. So once your data passes through all these 3 layers, it can move to a particular profile and it can provide application which is required. Similarly, your data that is passed can be audio or it can be data in form of video or images. And similarly, you also require a control bit in order to control the applications which can support. So these are the different layers of your Bluetooth. So we'll see each one of them in detail. So as we seen in the diagram, the first layer is a radio layer. So this radio layer is equivalent to your physical layer. So all your devices has to be connected using physical link. So whenever you are connecting the devices, it can be either synchronous or asynchronous. So based upon these two models, you can connect your devices which can support Bluetooth using your radio layer, and it uses frequency hop spread spectrum in order to make any changes or usage of the particular device. So the highest modulation frequency it can support is 1600 times per second, and it uses frequency shift keying with Gaussian bandwidth filtering to transform bits into signals. So whenever you have connected the device and you have started transmitting the data will be in terms of bits. So this bits has to be converted into signal, so electromagnetic signal. So in order to convert this, your radio layer uses frequency shift keying. So what is your Gaussian bandwidth? Whenever you have a normal distribution to be followed, it uses a Gaussian bandwidth filtering where only the signals which are of normal distribution can be taken into consideration. So this is about your radio layer. Next is your baseband layer. So your baseband layer is equivalent to your max sub layer. So here each of the devices can communicate with each other using the time divisions or time slots. So we have already seen how does your TDM or your time division multiplexing happens. Similar to that, your total time that is available in order to utilize your bandwidth can be divided into different time slots. So the length of each time slot is 625 microsecond. It is also called as dwell time. So how long a particular time slot can be used by one device is called as your dwell time. So the maximum dwell time is 625 microsecond. So during a frequency, a particular device can either send information to its slave, or slave can receive the frame from the master. So it is half duplex. What do you mean by half duplex? So in your network, either sender can send data or receiver can receive the data. So this is what you mean by half duplexing. It uses time division, media access or your time division duplexing in order to access time for a particular device, and it works in a half duplex fashion. So whenever a node is sending data, the other node should receive, and once the node has received the data, if it wants to send the acknowledgement, once all the data is received, it can send its acknowledgement. So it is half duplex. So applications, so it uses in a particular radio frequency range, and 2 or more devices can be connected using your Bluetooth. So this is about your baseband layer. In your baseband layer, it will clearly tell what is the time slot that is allotted for each device to transmit. And one more important thing to notice, the Bluetooth is an half duplex communication channel, which means that either it can send data or receive data. So next we'll see what are the different type of communication that can happen between your devices. So for example, if I say this is an example of how your messages are communicated between the Bluetooth devices. So one terminology that is, or one rule that is always followed is always your master uses the even number of slots and your slaves uses odd number of slots, and each slot starts with 0, which is even. So always master should start communication. So your master can be termed as primary and your slave devices can be termed as secondary. So this is an example of how communication happens between master and slave. So as I said, this particular bandwidth or frequency is divided into different slots, as you can see, F0, F1, F2, F3, and the op as well as what we read. So all your secondary devices should synchronize with the primary device. So you can see this dotted lines. All the secondary devices or the slave devices are synchronized with the master device, and the maximum amount of time that is available for a particular slot is 625 microseconds, right? So based upon this, now your master should start the communication. So this is the data which is color coded as yellow. So based upon this particular hop, your master is sending data to slave. So see, you can either send data or receive data because it is half duplex in nature. So in the first slot, your primary devices have sent data to your secondary devices with the frequency of F0. So now your secondary device has received the data. So now in the next iteration, if it wants to communicate, it can send the data. At this time, you can see because it has to receive the data, the half duplex nature is maintained in a way because your primary can occupy only even number of slots, whereas your secondary will occupy odd number of slots. So depending upon hops, you can transfer the data from primary to secondary. This is an example of single secondary communication. So what do you mean by single secondary communication? There is only one slave device and one master device. So if you have only one slave associated with that particular Pico network, then that type of transmission is called as single secondary communication. Next is multiple secondary communication. It is also called as multi-slave communication. So here secondary 1 and secondary 2 are two hosts which are connected to the master. In this case, you can see along with the time slots, you can also see that there are two slaves that are attached to the master. In this, master uses even slots, whereas slaves uses the odd number of slots, but it is allotted in such a way that it works in a round robin fashion. So what do you mean by round robin fashion? So in the first slot, if the channel is allotted to slave 1, in the next it is allotted to slave 2. In the next, it is allotted again to the slave 1, slave 2. Likewise, depending upon number of slaves, it has to wait till that particular frequency slot in order to send data or receive data. So your access to the medium is provided using round robin algorithm. So what is round robin? So if it starts with secondary 1, secondary 2, in the next op, it has to be secondary 1. Similarly, in the next coming op, it has to be secondary 2. So it will repeat iteratively. So this uses a round robin algorithm in order to access or provide access to the bandwidth for slaves. Then physical link. So your physical link can be either synchronous or asynchronous. What do you mean by synchronous? That is, if it follows a time slot correctly, it means that it is synchronous. So depending upon your clock period. So whenever you are transmitting the data using the time slots, latency and integrity are the two terms which are important. What do you mean by integrity? For example, at the source end, if I'm sending data of say 32 bits, And even at the receiver end, if I get data of 32 bits without any changes or without any altering of data, it means that data is following the integrity principle. That is, no one in between the communication channel was able to modify the data. But what do you mean by latency? How quickly you can traverse the data is latency. So in synchronous connection oriented technology or in synchronous connection oriented link, latency is very important when compared to integrity, because you are using the transmission slots. And one more thing, retransmission is not supported in your synchronous connection oriented link, but if it is a connectionless link, which is asynchronous, here integrity is more important, right? Because you don't know which particular data frame is transmitted first. So here it is very important in order to maintain the order of data that is being transmitted. So in your asynchronous connection link, integrity is more important than latency, and it can simultaneously send the data using several slaves. And in this case, if a particular data is lost, retransmission can also be done in case of your asynchronous connectionless link. So I'll repeat again. So whenever you want to connect Bluetooth devices, it can follow any one of these two links. So it can be a synchronous connection oriented link, asynchronous connectionless link. If it is synchronous, the clock time of the master and slave should be synchronous. In this case, latency is more important than integrity, and it uses slots, time slots in order to transmit. And in your synchronous connection oriented link, retransmission is not supported. Whereas in your asynchronous connectionless link, it is a connectionless, which means it is connected in an ad hoc manner. So your integrity is more important rather than how quickly you will traverse the data. So integrity can be maintained by sending the data in an order. So whenever you are sending a data, because it uses master slave architecture, you don't know how many slaves are communicating simultaneously. So in this case, if there is a loss of data in between, you can retransmit the data. So this is about physical link. Next is, what is the frame format of Bluetooth? So this is how the frame format of Bluetooth can be done. So first is the access code. So if you have seen in all other diagrams here, you can see your data is divided into 3 color codes, right? The first one is your access code, header, and data. So access code is of 72 bits. Then you have header, where each header is 54 bits, where it consists of 3 times a 18-bit address or 18-bit data is repeated in your header. So 18 3s are 54. So 54 bits, where 3 bits will be for address, 4 bits for type, and this is for flow control, acknowledgement, and S is for the sequential data. And similarly, you have 1 hexadecimal data in order to check the redundancy of data. Then finally, you can have data for 0 to n bits. So your n can be 240, 1490 or 2740 depending upon number of slots in the frame. So to deal with access code, so this is an 72-bit data where the basic function of your access code is to check whether you are establishing a synchronous connection oriented link or an asynchronous connectionless link. This can be gathered using your access code. So this access code will be unique for each frame in Piconet. So access code of one Piconet will be different from other Piconet. Header. So as I said, header is 54-bit field where 18-bit pattern is repeated thrice. So this 18-bit pattern, whatever we have seen here, this is repeated 3 times in order to form the header, where the first bit is address, which is a 3-bit address field, where it can accommodate 7 secondaries, right? So if you say 3-bit data, it can be from 000 to 111, where maximum it can have up to 8 devices. So if the address of the data is 000, then it means you're broadcasting the data from master to all the other slaves. So that is what you mean by 000. So the maximum number of secondary devices that is connected is 7. So address is the 3-bit address starting from 000 to 111. So for the first bits, that is 000, if address is 000, it means you're broadcasting the data to all other slaves which are connected to your Pico network. Next is type. Type is a 4-bit field where it will tell what is the type of data that is coming from the upper layer. In our case, the upper layer would be, what is the upper layer? Your radio layer, right? So from that you can see what is the type of data that is being transmitted. Next is F. F is flow control. So if a bit is set, it means that it indicates device is unable to receive, which means that the buffer that is there in order to get the data is full. So if your F bit is 1, it means that your buffer is full. That is, it is used to manage your flow control. If it is 0, it means that, okay, you can transmit and it is ready to receive the data. Once this flag is set, it means that the buffer which was used to get the data is full and you have to stop the transmission. The next bit is A, which is used to get the acknowledgement. It is a 1-bit field. If it is set, it means that it has received the acknowledgement, and your Bluetooth will use stop wait ARQ. What do you mean by stop wait ARQ? Before sending the data, it senses, then once it is sent the data, it will stop and wait until it receives the acknowledgement. Only when it has received acknowledgement, it will go ahead and transmit the next data, next byte of data. So this is your stop and wait ARQ. So once the acknowledged bit is 1, it will transmit the next data or the next data frame. Next is S. So S is called as a sequence number bit. If it is set to 1, it means that the bit is sufficient, because whenever you are sending the data using a connectionless protocol, it is very essential in order to provide the sequence number, right? Your sequence number, depending upon the sequence number, at your receiver end, you can rearrange the data and you can find out which particular bit is lost during the transmission, and only that bit can be retransmitted. Because it is a connectionless protocol, you can simultaneously send your data frames. So your sequence number helps you to find out which particular bit is not transmitted, and it also helps you to reconstruct your data at your receiver end. And the last bit in your frame, that is your header frame, is HEC, which is error control. So header, error correction or error control. So this can be used to check whether if there is any error during the transmission. So it uses checksum in order to find the error. So this is about the 18 bits. So this 18 bits data is repeated 3 times. So why you require the 3 sections? So whenever you are transmitting the data, what happens is it will sense this 18 bits. So if all these 18 bits are same during the transmission, it means that there is no modification of data and it will receive the data. If in case there is some change in the data, then it will go with the principle of majority voting, depending upon which two frames are majority it is correct, it will take that particular rule. So it takes the majority opinion, and 2 times or 3 times you are checking the error control, because here the medium of transmission is air, which is very noisy. So there is a great chance of noise being induced into the communication network, as well as since there is no retransmission in the sublayer, what you can do is you can have 18-bit header or 18-bit frame which is repeated thrice in order to form your header. So in order to check whether the data has reached properly, what you can do is you can check the header. So based upon this header, it will take the majority opinion. If majority of the times, if data is unaltered, it means that the data is transmitted properly. And your payload field or your data field is one which can carry the actual data or the control information. So this can take up to 0 to 2740 bits, depending upon the number of frames. So the number of frames, if it is one slot frame, then the number of data required is 240. If it is a 3 slot frame, it is 1490. If it is a 5 slot frame, it is 2740. So based upon this, this is the frame format of your Bluetooth. So any doubts?